recent polls have shown something that, well, that I don't think anyone expected.
Right.
Kamala Harris is leading Trump there.
Yeah, and not just in any poll.
Right.
This is Ann Selzer.
Oh, yeah.
And she's really well known for getting these things right.
Oh, she's like the election Nostradamus or something.
Oh, exactly.
She called Obama's wins in 2012, both of Trump's wins, and often by just a few points.
Yeah.
She even called those Iowa Senate races in 2014, 2020, and 2022. I mean, if Seltzer says it's happening, it's got to be true.
Right.
So this lead for Harris, is pretty big news.
Oh, yeah. It really kind of throws a wrench into the idea of Iowa being a guaranteed win for Republicans.
Right. So what's behind this potential shift then? What's going on in Iowa?
Well, one of the most important factors is how women voters are feeling, especially independent women.
Okay.
You see, in Iowa, independent women voters are a really big group, and in the past, they haven't really consistently sided with one party or the other.
Okay.
But this time, 57% of them say they favor Harris over Trump.
Wow.
And senior women are supporting Harris, like, by more than 2-to-1.
Wow, that's a pretty big difference.
Yeah, right.
Is it certain policies that are driving this or what?
Abortion rights are a huge concern for a lot of women.
Oh, yeah.
And that's making them really think about the candidates and the future they want for their families.
Yeah, I can see how something like that could make people really reevaluate who they're supporting.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's less about the party now and more about supporting someone who shares their values on this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to see it happening in Iowa,
Right.
A state that's, well, often seen as a bellwether for the country.
Mm-hmm.
Makes you think, are women in Iowa showing us what's to come across the country?
It's a good question. But women aren't the only ones who could change things in Iowa, right?
No, you're right.
Yeah.
We can't forget about the swing voters.
Oh, yeah.
The people who, well, haven't decided which party to support yet.
Right.
And in Iowa, they make up a full 16% of the voters.
Wow. That's a lot of people.
Right. And in a close race, that's huge.
Yeah. So what's making these swing voters wait to decide?
A lot of it is the economy.
Okay.
Inflation's been tough on everyone.
Yeah.
And gas prices have been all over the place.
Right.
A lot of these voters are, well, struggling to make ends meet.
Right.
And for them, economic stability is the most important thing.
Yeah, it's more about who can put food on the table and less about the political stuff.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. One analyst even said that for some voters, a full gas tank is more important than who they usually vote for.
Yeah.
And that really gets to the heart of it for people who are struggling, those everyday worries. It's got to be hard to think about anything else.
Uh-huh. And that's what makes these swing voters so interesting.
Yeah.
It's not really about a certain party or ideology for them. They're looking for solutions to their problems.
Yeah.
So both campaigns are going to be working really hard to convince them that their policies will actually help.
So it's kind of like a tug of war for these swing voters then.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, each side trying to prove they have the better plan for the economy.
Exactly. And this tug of war in Iowa, it could be like what's happening in the whole country.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
We're seeing similar anxieties in swing voters everywhere.
Yeah.
They want someone who understands their struggles and who's offering real solutions.
Right.
It's less about red versus blue and more about who can actually get things done.
Yeah.
And who can make their lives better.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So we're seeing this shift in Iowa with women voters and swing voters kind of becoming these really important groups.
Right.
Do you think this is part of a bigger trend across the country?
I think so, yeah. I think what's happening in Iowa is like a preview of what we might see all over.
Okay.
This divide between men and women, more women supporting the Democrats. It's not just in Iowa.
Yeah.
And then the economic worries that swing voters have. Well, everyone's feeling that.
Right.
It's happening everywhere.
So Iowa's like a microcosm of the whole election then?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It does seem like this election is, well, maybe a little different this time. Like there's more at stake.
Yeah, I think you're right. It feels like more than just the usual back and forth.
What do you think is causing that feeling?
I think it's this clash of values.
Okay.
Different visions for the future.
Yeah.
It's being called a fight for the soul of America.
Wow.
It's about what America should stand for.
Yeah.
And right at the center are women voters.
Okay.
Their concerns about democracy,
Right.
their rights, the economy, all of it. It's changing things in a way we haven't really seen before.
So it's like we're at a crossroads. Like we're not just picking a president, but we're deciding what kind of country we want.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. And the decisions we make, well, they're going to have consequences for a long time.
For sure. So we've got women voters demanding change, swing voters who could go either way.
But there's something else that could be really important. Voter turnout.
Oh, yeah, of course. It doesn't matter who people want to vote for if they don't actually vote.
Right. And in places like Iowa, where it's going to be really close, turnout could decide the whole thing.
Right.
If Iowa really becomes a battleground, both parties are going to try really hard to get their supporters to the polls.
We're talking get out the vote campaigns, registration drives, the whole 9 yards.
Exactly. It's not just about convincing undecided voters anymore. It's about making sure everyone who supports you actually votes.
And that's where all this political engagement comes in, right?
Yeah.
Especially among women. We could see record turnout this election.
I think we might. It would be pretty amazing.
Millions of people, all energized, motivated to make a difference. Okay, so we've talked about women voters, swing voters, and how Iowa might be like a mini version of the whole national political scene.
Yeah.
But, going back to that poll from Ann Selzer, showing Harris leading,
Right.
that really got my attention early on. What is it about her polls that make them so reliable?
It's her track record.
Okay.
She just consistently nails it. Like the winner, the margin of victory.
Give me some examples.
Okay. All right. So in the 2012 presidential election, she said Obama would win Iowa by 5 points.
Okay.
And he won by 6. Then in 2016, she predicted a Trump victory by 7.
Okay.
And he ended up winning by 9.
Okay.
And even in 2020, when a lot of other polls thought Trump would do worse than he did,
Right.
she called his win in Iowa, again, by 7 points. And he won by 8.
So she's really good at this.
Yeah.
It's not just luck. Like what's her secret?
I think it's a few things. It's her methods.
Okay.
She doesn't just do those big surveys.
Right.
She also does focus groups,
Okay.
interviews to really get a sense of how people are feeling.
So she's not just looking at the numbers then.
No, she's actually talking to people, hearing what they're thinking about, what they're worried about.
Yeah.
And that lets her see those little changes in opinion that other polls might miss.
Yes.
And then she really understands Iowa politics.
Okay.
Like, she's not just some outsider. She's been covering Iowa for decades.
Oh, wow.
She knows the state, she knows the people, she knows the history.
You can't understand the present if you don't know the past.
Right, exactly. And she's good at connecting the dots,
Right.
Seeing how what's happening now fits into Iowa's political history.
But it's not just national races either, right?
Think back to 2014.
Okay.
Everyone thought the Senate race was going to be super close. But Selzer said, no, Joni Ernst is going to win pretty easily. And she was right. Ernst won, even though the other polls had it much closer.
So even when it seems like it could go either way, she's not afraid to say what she thinks will happen. And she's usually right.
Yeah. And that's why her polls are so important. When Selzer releases something,
Yeah.
people listen.
Okay.
Because they know her predictions aren't random. She does her research. She knows Iowa.
So when she says Harris is leading in Iowa,
Right.
it's a big deal. It's not just some random thing.
No, it's something to pay attention to, for sure.
This
was a good one.
I hope you enjoyed it. Stay curious about this election, everyone, and we'll catch you next time.